I could talk a lot about my cousin Temple. I can say a lot of things about my auntie Gyte, but for the sake of this message to fit on the Scott Survivor Media project, I want to describe some things about these two outspoken, beautiful, strong women and their status as child abuse survivors. I'm going to consider them survivors, although at least Temple, my cousin, I can say on a peer level, manifested a lot of the permanent effects of child abuse. Something about her deems her a survivor, in my opinion, and that is the fact that she was always able to tell the truth about what happened to her. And by telling the truth about what happened to her, she was able to stay in reality. Now, what the Scotts did to her, they would never admit, they will never admit. And I didn't grow up in Milwaukee when they started to have at Temple. So I don't want to say things about the Scotts that they are going to come together and deny. But let me give you a description of who Temple was. Temple was the first grandchild born to Madea. She was born in 1963. She was the prettiest of all of us and desired by every young man in the neighborhood. She would eventually grow up to suffer multiple physical injuries, health problems, and became addicted to pharmaceuticals. I was in San Francisco pulling myself up by the bootstraps, communicating with Temple as often as I could. And I received a phone call from her daughter, who I've never met, but am very aware of. And thank you for calling me, young lady. And she called me and gave me the bad news that my cousin was dead at 50 years old. Temple was a child born vis-a-vis a rape. My mother told me that my auntie, Gyte, Temple's mother, was raped when she was 14 years old by Madea's boyfriend. His name is Donald. And my mother told me about Gyte being raped by Donald, we'll leave his last name out, more often than she would talk about her own rapes. She never told me, my mother never told me a name of the boy or man that raped her. But I knew the name of the man that raped my auntie Gyte, Madea's boyfriend. My auntie Gyte told me she was raped by Donald when I was a grown woman, capable of that conversation. Now, do you want to hear something curious and interesting? Temple met her biological father, Donald. And Donald told her that he didn't rape her mother, that he loved her mother, and that it was consensual. You see the conflict there? Is that not common in the black community? Well, I believe that my auntie was raped by Donald, and that Madea accused her 14-year-old daughter of having sex with her boyfriend, which would indeed let him off of the hook. And then this monster, well, I'll take that back. I don't know Donald. this man was able to get away unscathed because the adult involved in the child rape, the statutory rape, didn't believe her daughter. So he was able to live, prosper, make another family, put that behind him. And when he bonded with his daughter, Temple, he was very comfortable convincing her of the same thing he convinced Madea and everybody else that would listen. That's what a pedophile sympathizer is. When a grown man that has no business making love to your daughter impregnates her and she accuses him of rape, you call it everything but rape. And then you accuse the daughter of being consensual and enjoying it. Does this sound familiar, black people? Does this sound familiar, Scots? This happened in 1963. The culprit was Madea. Do you see why I refer to myself as a Scot survivor? Last time I talked to Temple, who was not my favorite cousin growing up, but was the last cousin on the Scott side that loved me and expressed this love and support, was in 2013, and I miss her. I continue to have an opportunity to speak to her mother, my auntie Gyte, who was sick. After that, while I was dealing with a workers' compensation case, waiting to get paid so that I could have enough money to go see my auntie, and the month that I got paid is the month that my auntie died in a nursing home. I spoke to her one week. She had told me that she fell down, hurt her face, scratched her face. Somebody put something on her face. She was concerned. She sounded a little out of it. I called back the following week to see how she was doing, and she was dead. And I don't know what happened to my auntie. My auntie Gyte was not my favorite aunt growing up. She would be the last maternal aunt alive, and she talked to me until the day that she died. And these two survivors are a very important part about a very, very important reason why I'm pursuing this media project. I'm using their strength. I'm using their honesty. I'm using their position as child rape victims to oppose the same people that destroyed their confidence as young women. My auntie Gyte would manifest certain issues. I thought she held up well, and then she had some problems later on in her life. Temple held up well and started to take a turn very early in life. I think it's her 20s that she started to have problems. See, the same group of young men that wanted to marry her and lay her and claim her were the ones that helped turn her into a drug addict and helped take her beauty away from her and helped take her confidence away from her. Under the title of child sexual abuse. And we want to cape for black males that are accused of having sex with 14-year-olds. She wanted it. She was going to give it to somebody anyway. He paid her. She was fast. There's either an age that is inappropriate for grown people to have sex with, or there's not. Ask your brother, ask your mother what that age is, and see if they keep their word.